Hey everyone, welcome to the Tin Roof Podcast. I am joined today by Daniel from the Lost by Choice Motorsports team. Probably has the coolest livery in America for sure, but maybe even internationally because it is a very, very cool livery. And not only is it a cool livery, but it is a very unique car. And that's just one of the many things that we're going to be discussing with Daniel today. But I don't want to chew up too much of the time myself. So, Dan, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Happy to be here.
So, give us a brief history. I don't want to spend too much time on it just because I would love for people to go back and listen to the episode you did with Jim Booth, who has been a guest on this podcast. Uh,
Wonderful.
like, go to his podcast and listen to the episode that you did with him on rallying in America.
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Daniel Hayes. Basically, I have the pleasure of driving a 2006 Ford Mustang GT that is done up for American Rally Association. We had the tremendous honor of competing nationally in 2024, and I set a ambitious goal for our team, and we were able to accomplish that by the year's end. Um, yeah. Basically, it's been a lot of fun. I'm having this has been a dream of mine since early 2000s, and I'm just living the dream right now. So
That's that is excellent. So you ran what, four of the national events in 2024, correct?
exactly, yes, yeah. So we competed in open two wheel drive. We competed in four national events, and I believe we podium all of three of them. My first time, a lot of the events were actually my first time ever doing them. So the only one we didn't podium, unfortunately, was 100 Acre Wood. But that one was fun because one of our fellow competitors is a good friend of ours named Keenan, and he was just a blast to compete against. So it was just anytime we're out there, I'm having a blast. Hopefully, the team's having a blast, even though their job is a lot tougher than mine. And really, it just the smiles and faces and fans we meet along the way is just always so invigorating. You know.
It's it The sport in general is just amazing all the way around. Um,
Yes.
whether you're a driver, whether you're a fan, whether you're uh, a crew guy, uh, whether it's mechanic, whatever, it's just it's truly amazing. And I always use the example whenever I'm trying to explain it to people that it is the perfect sport for rednecks because
Sure.
it's literally like what some of us grew up in high school doing, which we shouldn't be
Yep.
doing, kids.
Yep.
But flying down back roads, going, "Hey, y'all, watch this!" And so, you know, because of that, I just can't believe that in a way it hasn't caught on as like popular as it would be, say, overseas, like in Finland, where
Of
it's the
course. Yep.
national sport.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I grew
But
up doing very much the same thing. I was just being being reckless, I guess. You know.
right, so 100 Acre Wood, you didn't podium. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. I've noticed that you're not on the schedule or like on the entry list so far. Is there any plans to compete there nationally again?
Not this year, unfortunately. So we had a abbreviated schedule in 2025, to say the least. I was competing at Southern Ohio Forest Rally, and unfortunately, had an off that that shook up the car pretty well. And we've been kind of taking the long road to get things to square one, and we're just almost at the tail end of finalizing everything. We really don't have a plan in stone for 2026 in terms of competing. I'll get back out there when kind of time's ready. But I was actually speaking to my co-driver earlier today, and our goal is to kind of strike again in 2027. Hopefully, doing 4 or 5 national events once again, to see what it's like. Once again.
Right. People, you're an independent team, and
Yes.
that is one thing that can't be sold short. Is so many of the teams here in America doing the ARA events, they're independents. It's all out of pocket except for
Yes.
whatever sponsors they can get, and sometimes getting sponsors is extremely difficult. You have a couple of really great partners I
Yep.
saw from your website, but even then, like a lot of it's still out of it's still on your dime, and it can only go as far as your dime will allow. And then not only that's just the financial side. That's not even the time side because it takes both time and money to do this. And so whenever
Exactly.
a car is being repaired and everything else, that takes a lot of time, especially if you have, a serious enough off.
Exactly. The financial side of things is always tough. I mean, it is, being a privateer is always tough, no matter if you're running something like a Mustang or a Subaru or Geo Metro, The time side of things is kind of what bogs people and teams down because it is a huge commitment. It's a huge commitment, not only from me, from my co-driver, from our crew chief. It is finding the team that you feel as a driver and crew chief most comfortable with. I have been very fortunate to work with these amazing guys and gals in the past that are just in it to see us through. And if touching on the off in Southern Ohio, my confidence level wasn't there, and that just kind of trickles down into not a good showing. So it's important for anyone in the sport to have that confidence level that no matter what occurs, someone is there to assist you get through it. It could be the wise words of a co-driver, or it could be, the comforting of your crew chief, or it could be knowing that when things are being worked on, they're worked on in the best possible way and in the safest manner as possible. So, it's yeah, you can throw money at it, but it's having that comfort and that knowledge and that confidence to know the people that are working on your vehicle are there to ensure they're doing it to their best standard and also ensuring that your safety is paramount.
Safety is extremely key.
Yes.
I mean, because without any safety procedures, I mean, I look back. I've been doing a lot of watching the older stuff from like the 80s and whatnot here lately,
Oh
and
yeah.
the guys at like Rally Portugal that are just like standing out in the road like waiting for the car to come. It's like that, especially the Group B
It's
cars. Those things were traveling at like Rally 1 speeds back then, and you're
exactly.
thinking, what are you doing? And I can't imagine people doing that today, but even with the safety procedures that we have set in place, it's extremely it's still dangerous, and
Yes.
uh, you do have to have a level of confidence to have the kind of a commitment to be uh, not only competitive but to be safe because doing these stages and everything, you're flying down, especially here in America. All of ours are gravel events. We don't really have any
Yep.
tarmac national events or even I don't think any of the regionals are either. And gravel flying that fast, you're sliding. You're like your grip
Exactly.
is still minimal to a point. So you have to have the confidence to be able to commit to also do it safely and to have that wherewithal.
Exactly. When my co-driver said it to me at the end of Southern Ohio, we're not playing around anymore. 2023 is when I kind of got my feet wet. 2024 is kind of when I took it a lot more serious. 2025 was supposed to be when we were hitting a speed factor that it's if you do not have the confidence or the wherewithal, to you will unfortunately get hurt. So that's kind of we're in this for our team. We're kind of in this in between phase where we're fast enough to get hurt. So we need to ensure that anything that we do is always done top notch. We're not playing around anymore. Which is amazing. The amount of growth that we have been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. But it's also a little nerve wracking, to hear that from a co-driver, because you always have that thought in your head of what could. And the number one lesson I've learned doing this is to be successful at rally driving, you have to drive without emotion. You can't get angry, you can't get upset, you can't get flustered, you can't fall off of your emotions because of how much is going through your head at the same time, which makes it an amazing sport. I mean, the level of commitment and the brain power alone to do what we are doing out there is just ridiculous. I mean, I could never imagine being at the top echelon of drivers because the focus and attention I don't even think I have. I mean, it's amazing to see these guys. I do the same thing, watching them, watching videos, watching how they react and their reaction times, and I'm like, holy moly, like, how can you do this? This is crazy, but it's so much fun. And that's kind of, for me, it's like my therapy. So
Those are really really good things to point out, especially like with the focus thing,
yes,
because there's a couple of guys that their mannerisms are completely different, but they're both one tuning in and two also being like completely emotionless while they're driving. And
yes,
like you were talking about, it's two guys at the top. It's Kalle Rovanpera, who has moved on to Formula racing for now, and
hmm,
then Elfin Evans. And if you
yes,
watch Elfin at the beginning of the stage, he's sitting back, holding onto the the handbrake. But as soon as it's go time, he lets go of the handbrake and he leans forward, and you can see he's like totally tuned into thinking because he does like a thinking face,
yeah,
and
yep,
he's totally plugged in. And then Calais, a little more chill, a little more laid back, definitely way more Finn, because he's just blank faced and just listening to the directions and just making it look like he's just trying to get across town to go get a get milk or something, like he's headed to go get
exactly,
groceries. Now, one thing that they've got that you don't have is four-wheel drive, and there's a huge difference there, because
yes,
they have power at the front wheels where if the back end gets in trouble, they can kind of power out with the front. Whereas if you get into a particular predicament where you got to rely on the front wheels to pull you out, you're not going to have that because of
exactly.
being in a rear-wheel drive. Um, have you driven an all-wheel drive car as opposed to the rear wheel, or have you only driven your Mustang?
Well, my first ever rear-wheel drive car was this Mustang. Before that, I did just, track driving in a Subaru, nothing rally related, other than, a day at Team O'Neill. Um, and yeah, the Mustang has actually been my only rear-wheel drive vehicle ever.
So even though the driving, like the track wise and everything, was uh, I mm, limited, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't
Yep.
like that word though, because it's still experience. Uh, could you tell the difference between how you had to act driving that as opposed to the Mustang?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I was very fortunate to be driving an STI on the track, and it's the you can just throw an STI into a corner, and you have the know how and confidence that it's just going to stick. On the Mustang, it is, or rear wheel drive in general, it is all how you approach the throttle. It is, you are completely having to fine tune your foot position at all times to make the vehicle rotate, to brake, to upset the vehicle in the good way, to corner better. And it's all done with the gas pedal. You know, it is. I probably am not the best at skill wise in that sense, but you know, like when I'm coming into a corner, I am, because the Mustang is a Mustang, it's heavy vehicle. It's still 3,200 pounds as it sits, completely stripped out. I'm braking in a straight line and then having to use my throttle to rotate the vehicle. Hardly ever trying to brake in a corner because it just, in my brain, I know if I can brake in a straight line, then I can adjust the corner with my throttle inputs and all that stuff. So, completely different animal. It's amazing. It's so much fun, but it is also just, it was pretty remarkable the intense difference you get from rear wheel drive versus an all wheel drive vehicle.
Now, do you had mentioned like you were going at speeds that uh, I think I've understood you correctly, or was like new territory for you? Uh, how fast were you going? Like as you got more comfortable in the Mustang, like what kind of speeds were you doing on these gravel roads?
Yeah, we, on a good stretch, I'm talking like, 400 meters, 500 meters, 600 meters. There's some, we're probably touching 120 miles per hour. I know at Sandblast was one of my first events. We were up there because it is just long stretches of flat, relatively flat course or stage, and you're hitting 115, 120, and then trying to make that stop is pretty fun. So for me, you'll see on our car, we actually are running 18-inch wheels and tires, which are way above what anybody else is competing on. And it is just because we need that stopping power of a really high end braking system that to slow the vehicle down in a very controlled manner.
Yeah, and part of your weight, because obviously, like you said, Mustangs are big, and like
Yep.
even stripped down to where you're at 3,200 pounds. You're also, a lot of guys have four cylinders. You have, I'm assuming, a six cylinder.
No, we are a 4.6 liter V8.
Oh, rocking the V8.
Yeah.
There's definitely not very many V8s out on the stages, so
No.
that makes it even more impressive,
Yeah.
because that is compared to like most rally cars. That's a lot of weight. Like
Yes.
just in the motor itself, that is a
Yeah.
ton of weight. So like that makes it even more commendable. Not that like I'm like not trying to lessen anything else with rallying, but the like man, rallying a V8, that is awesome.
It's a lot of fun. It's wild to say the least. It is definitely an experience being behind the wheel. But like you said, it's a big car. So I am unfortunately paying for it when these little cars can kind of do a lot more nimble maneuvers. I'm paying it for it because if I am at a hairpin, my back end is probably the width, of the whole road. So I'm hanging my back end out a lot, which for it's a lot of fun, but it's also can be a little nerve wracking at times. So
I'm sure it can be because it's like, am I hanging out too far and everything
yeah,
else? And that's where recce notes really probably pay off for you guys. Do
yes.
you recce in a Mustang or do you recce in a rental car, or how do you normally do your recce's?
No, so I recce in what was my daily driver, which was a Ford Ranger, which was interesting, very bumpy. As a typical body on frame kind of truck, it was not the smoothest of recce's. But we just used that because could kind of it was very similar in that regards because I could put in two-wheel drive, see how it handled a little bit during recce with some of the tighter turns. And it was a wider vehicle, so it kind of gave us a better feel of what the width was going to do on stages during recce. But recce, it's interesting. There's a lot of talk about recce in the sense of people kind of going quickly through it. For me, I'm using every last minute to, to fine tune and to try to do as many passes as possible because that's where my brain works best to dial in my hands for the corners. And I'm a very visual learner. So seeing my hands, seeing the stage in front of me, it just clicks a lot easier. So I am, one of those that will be out there all day on recce, come back exhausted, and then do it the next day because usually it's 2 days of recce. So, you know,
Okay, that was gonna be my next question actually, is because like the like WRC and I think even ERC, they get a couple of days worth of recce, but I know for regional events they only get like same day recce. Like they go recce in the
yes,
morning and then they start doing the stages that afternoon. And so I was curious what it was for national events, if you actually got to do a couple of days of recce or if it was, one day.
usually it is one full day and then either one another day, so 2 full days, or one full day and one half day, and then like maybe one stage that evening. So like for Southern Ohio, you'll have that night stage, but you're doing recce in the morning. What my co-driver and I do on day one is try to finish as many stages as possible so we can get a good baseline. And then day two, we do as many stages as possible again. But let's say we're confident on this one, we can skip it and kind of fine tune other stages as we go. But yeah, for national, tends to be lean on the 2 days. And it is no joke, 14 to 16 hours in the car. So it is using the full day, from sun up to sundown.
So do they have like an open and close time on the recce days?
Not There is definitely some of them national forests that we that are held. They open like at dawn to dusk, just like pretty much any state forest you might have around you. And then if it's private roads, you can kind of do it. You can kind of start early and end late, but one of the first things I learned was there's no point in doing recce when you can't see, when you're just trying to do it by headlights. Because that's not what you're going to be experiencing. And even if you
No.
are running late and your stage is at night, well, it's not going to be the right notes for you to do that. So we just kind of concentrate daylight hours, and even if we get to the stage a little bit early, it's nice to just kind of relax, ease into it, and then kind of get the. It takes me a little while to get the rhythm kind of going with my co-driver to kind of get notes to where I like, and remembering, what verbiage is what and what I need to do, because it is 14 hours of me talking as he writes down notes. So it's, me relearning pretty much every event what I need to dictate to my co-driver.
I have a handful of questions.
Sure.
So I'm gonna let's break this down slowly in a sense. So obviously with recce and everything like that, you're out there making the notes and everything, and it, I like the fact that you brought up the point about being able to like skip certain stages because it's like, okay, I know that one good enough, but this other one, it's giving me some trouble. Let's run through it again. But is there any onboards that you guys have access to, whether it's your own or even like watching some on YouTube that you can find of places like, let's say, Southern Ohio or even 100 Acre Wood or LSPR? I know that there's a handful because I've watched several of them from LSPR, but some of them probably hard to find information on, I would imagine.
Yeah, for me, I, probably to my detriment, I can watch something on YouTube, but unless I'm doing it, it's kind of tough for me to correlate what's going on. And even the times that I try to record myself, I just I get tired of it. I get tired of watching it. So I'm more of I actually have to be doing it for it to kind of sink in. And even if I was to watch a YouTube video or something of an event, my note taking is so different from what they're probably showing that it probably doesn't equate easily in my brain that, what they're calling isn't exactly what I would be writing. So
Makes sense.
I can get a sense of the stage, but to be honest, even if you're looking at the stage itself from a year ago, it could be completely different, when you're at the event. And it is detrimental to myself not recording more and not watching it back. But it's just something my brain just doesn't like to do, is to kind of sit there and watch the stage videos of a recce.
Makes sense. Especially being a visual learner and being
Yes.
very hands-on as well. Because for me, being I've built tracks for monster truck racing. I'm a trash man. All of the learning that has been most beneficial to me would be the times where I show up to a fairgrounds or something, and the the dude that's from the fair that normally runs the equipment, you know, hands it over to me, and they're like, "Have you ever driven a cat blah 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 skid steer
Yep.
before?" And
Yep.
I'm like, "I haven't driven this one in particularly, but give me 5 minutes, I'm gonna have it figured out."
Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
that's about all it would take me. I'd sit there, okay, this one's more foot pedal than the hand controls, and so then I'd go out there and I'd start building my first ramp, and by the time I even had the first ramp halfway worked in, I was good to go, just because I had to learn that way so many different times on different pieces of equipment and everything else. It, Having that hands on makes things totally different. Now, next question:
Yes.
do you have music playing whenever you're doing recce? Like, do you got a recce playlist that you listen to, or is it complete silence in the car?
Oh no, it's complete silence. I am just talking to Boyd, my co-driver, the whole time, so it is 100% focused. Even in transits between stages, He's usually making corrections or adjusting notes, and I'm just listening to the GPS because we're in the middle of nowhere. Trying to get from stage to stage, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss a corner on transit so we don't end up being late to the start of a stage of some sort, you know.
And I'm sure that can be tough, especially like going to places for the first time, because 2024 was your first time at 100 Acre Wood, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And it was my first time too, and we got lost trying to get to the spectator section of the
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
So I can relate. I can relate, especially down there, because like whenever you leave the park expose and it does that, fork where the fans can go this way to go down to the spectator section for I think it was stages like 3 and 4, and then like you guys had to go this way to get to the start of the stage, and we were like, wait, where do we go?
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
we had never been down there before, so we didn't know where we were going, and so it took a minute to kind of figure things out. And so I can only imagine trying to get to start of a stage, and then you get done with the stage. The other cars aren't hanging around at the end of the stage. I wouldn't think because they got to hurry up and get in line at the next one to be ready to go. And obviously, like checking in for time control and everything else is
Yes.
very, very particular because you don't want to be penalized for doing something you shouldn't be, as far as checking in too early or checking in too late. And so there's a lot to this as well, and it's a
Yes.
lot of strategy.
Yeah. It's competing in rally is just it's so mental. It's just it is your brain is always working. Even when you're in between stages, your brain is just working because you still have to get someplace. You're still against a clock, you know? So your brain is just does not rest. That's why a lot of competitors, crews, and even spectators are like this rally hangover. It's because at the end of a event, you're just able to relax for the first time in probably a week, if not longer, because some teams, are still working on their cars come the day before they load up, So it's amazing what the crews, the teams, the volunteers, the organizers put together, because it is such a timed event, like probably no other.
Yeah, I can't like you know again with my experience in monster trucks, it's it's very very different than this because yeah, it's timed and whatnot, but it's like okay, we go green at 7 and we're going to be done at like 9:30. Whereas for rallying, there's so much more structure, there's so much more going on,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and there's really, I mean, so much more going on sums it up perfectly because there really is because it's it it's point A to point B times 15 times 16 times 17 whatever it is, and then not only that but then there's road sections in between there, so some cases you guys have to drive. I was actually talking to a guy who's going to be a future guest on here from Argonaut Motor Club, and he was like, "There's one section out in Oregon for Oregon Trail, or maybe it's for Olympus in Washington." But he's like, "It's a 2.5 hour road section, so
Yes.
that's 5 hours of just driving to get to the stages.
Yep.
That's not even competing. So you drive 2.5 hours there to get started at, say 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever it may be. But then you do all those stages, which could, be another 6 hours. And then you got to drive another 2.5 back to service. There's a lot going
Exactly.
on there. So in those situations, or like in any rallying situation, in between stages, what's the communication like between you and, say, Gary, your crew chief?
Well, back to we're in the middle of nowhere. It's almost non-existent. Between coming into service, I will be very lucky if I can even get a text off, because there's just no cell service. There's limited cell coverage. So it is usually once we get back into wherever town service is when we're able to kind of fire off some messages for the team to kind of get ready. The whole time, obviously, they're on rally safe, looking at where we are, making sure we're still moving and all that good stuff. But it's interesting because we're in the middle of nowhere. So even if let's say even if we Boyd and I on the way back were wanting to relax or listen to music or something, I mean there's not even cell service to do that. So, it's very there are some very long transit sections that are very quiet because at the same time you're just kind of processing what you just did. So it is very interesting, because you're with your thoughts for quite a while during a rally, your own thoughts, because yeah, you could communicate with your co-driver and things like that. But for me and Boyd, it's a lot of quietness, kind of refocusing, settling down. Your adrenaline's rushing, but now you're kind of, like you said, sitting in a car for 2.5 hours at highway speeds and at the speed limit because you cannot speed in a rally car because you're being monitored at all times. So you don't want to incur any penalties. So you're just kind of putting along and you're like, okay, what did we just do? Oh, that's right.
I know that something that is becoming more and more popular is like I don't, I'm gonna get the term wrong. I'm certain of it, but like a motorsports psychiatrist, right?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Do you like speak with one or
I have been very fortunate to connect with a fellow competitor by the name of Betsy, who worked with me for a couple of sessions, and she is just a saint when it comes to speaking with her, diving into the actual mental aspects of motorsports, and her being a competitor as well. She's able to understand you a little bit better than, let's say, somebody who hasn't maybe competed before in rally.
I can't imagine because if you don't go to somebody that hasn't ever done any side of it, uh, going to somebody that they wouldn't have that relatability that yeah I know what you're going through, I know what you're talking about. They wouldn't have that. Like obviously they would have the know-how and whatnot as far as uh, the psychiatry side, but it takes that human condition, that human nature of, hey man, yeah, I've been there doing the stages and everything else, and I
Exactly. Yep.
understand the coming down, the processing, and everything like that. And so I think it's great that again, like within our community of motorsports fans, rally, drivers, so on and so forth, lengthy list of different things, we have people like that see a need and have that understanding. And I think this is actually a great time to segue into uh, the name of y'all's motorsport team, which is Lost by
Sure.
Choice. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, this is one of those questions I get all the time, and it's kind of interesting because, you know, I just kind of threw it at the wall and it stuck for me. The simple answer is it means I am out there, not sure what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it and I want to do it. It's like some of that old adage of, not all who wander are lost type of thing. For me personally, it's we're just going to go out there, see what happens, wing it if we have to, and kind of go for it, get out there, do something that's a little different. And it's okay if you don't kind of succeed, but at least you kind of did it, you know. You said you did it, so, or it's something. It's kind of building my goal of trying to be ambitious in my life and putting it into a team name, I guess.
Dude, I like that a lot. That's really cool. And actually, because of the name Lost by Choice Motorsports, I had already planned on titling this episode "Not All Who Wander Are Lost."
Nice. Yep.
So that's fantastic. Um, but you guys also you have a very important uh, like message slash mission that you guys uh, have behind your team, which is very near and dear to me as well, and that's mental health and trying
Yes.
to be again. I don't want to use the wrong words here, but speak out against suicide,
Yep.
and that to me is huge because everybody like I'm even wearing my "You Are Enough" hoodie right now. Everybody needs to be here. Like Chester Bennington said in
Mm-hmm.
his song "One More Light" that he did with Linkin
Yes.
Park. You know, now I'm second guessing if I know the lyrics, but who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do. I do care,
Exactly. Yep.
and
Yep.
everybody, you like whoever's listening, you are enough, and I, I think I can speak for Daniel as well as myself. We do care, and that's I would love for you to elaborate from your side on this as well.
Yeah. This one's. I mean, this topic of suicide prevention is one that I am near and dear to. Um, I have unfortunately lost friends to mental health issues, and for myself, I've always struggled with those issues growing up. So for me, I wanted this to be a way to communicate with folks and be vibrant and bright and just like you said, you are enough. And just start the conversation because I think that's what's very tough for us as humans to kind of get the emotions out when we're kind of feeling them in the moment or to even ask for help. I know for myself growing up with these thoughts and stuff, it's always been something I kept inside. But more recently, what I've been able to do with motorsports, I'm able to break out of those thoughts for a little bit. And that to me is what's very important. And that's kind of the reasoning behind all this was okay, we all have these thoughts. So let's take a week off and think about something else. Let's dive in and concentrate on something that's a little different that will keep our brain at 100% so that other things can kind of reset. It's a big reset anytime we go to these events. And for me, I've decided in my later years that I want to be an open book and just tell my story to those who want to listen, but also maybe what I've gone through will assist somebody in what they're going through or have gone through. Because, what I'm trying to do is just be there to listen, but also to assist.
Listening to hear is so much more different than listening to react, and
Yes.
uh, I can definitely tell that like that's the focus is listen to hear, and then help where you can, obviously, but it's such a heavy topic and it's so hard to uh, kind of get off into the weeds sometimes, especially
Mm-hmm.
because like as men. I think you hit on something very key there, and I'm going to word it a little bit differently than what you did. But like as guys, especially, I'm a '90s baby, and I'm not sure what your age or anything like that. You mentioned later years, but your anime drawing of yourself on the website would suggest that you're probably about my age.
Yes.
But
Yep.
we I specifically was raised very old school, and I always tell people I'm going to use myself as an example because I have no better example than myself. Uh, it was very much like that old school mentality of like stuff it down. Uh, you don't really talk about your feelings. You just kind of go about life like that's how it is, and you swallow that pill and everything like that, and like that's not okay. Like you don't have to do that, and
Yes.
it's we got to talk about these things, and so it's it's important on so many levels to talk to somebody, and I think that it's great that you guys are doing that. And you guys are actually also using this not only to talk about that message, but you're also, I guess, in a sense, being about it too, because you guys are also helping trying to raise money for a charity, and that charity is what?
Yeah. So I have been, oh, geez, I have been very fortunate to partner with an organization called Hope for the Day. Um, and their mission is to get resources into communities for suicide prevention, but also to assist in finding resources for mental health. Um, and their goal is basically getting to start the conversation, or to have you as someone who's seeking advice or guidance, to make the first step into looking for a resource. I myself found them through a streamer I follow. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So I reached out one day, and, because these rallies are held in tight knit communities, I was like, okay, if I can provide or allow these resources to be shown on my vehicle and also to be provided or not given out, but accessible during an event, it's kind of a win-win. So, and that's kind of what their Hope for the Day's mission is just getting more resources out into the public, so it's easier to start that conversation with somebody or for yourself.
And that's fantastic. Like what a great organization.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. Like I think it's extremely needed in these small tight knit communities. Like
Yes.
you hit on, because a lot of those people that live in those type of areas grew up very old school, much like myself, and they
Exactly.
need to
Yep.
be able to hear, hey, you can like there are people that you can go to have these discussions because it can be hard to even admit to a spouse even or a brother or a sister or a parent, hey, I'm not doing okay. And so sometimes you do need to find somebody else that you can go to where you're like, hey, I'm not doing okay, and then they're like, I know just the person.
Yep.
That is key. And um, I know that people can go over to Lost by Choice Motorsports and contribute. You have I think it's on the Our Mission page, if I remember correctly, where people can donate.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I have a donate link on my website. Basically, we donate to directly to Hope for the Day, and that's just part of me being a partner with them. Is mainly I'll try to support them to the best of my ability, with handing out resources or financially, whatever it may be. And just some way to give back a little bit more, to an organization that I have found helpful.
That's fantastic. Uh, Now that we've kind of gone through some heavy stuff, let's lighten it up here as we
Yeah.
get towards the end. Uh, let's let's talk about your livery because your
Yes.
livery is very very cool and it's unique.
Yeah. So basically, for some reason, I have really liked skulls all of a sudden. And so basically my our logos kind of like a skull, skeletons, things like that. I guess it's kind of like peeling away the facade of a person and just seeing that, hey, we're all just kind of bones inside. And for me, the livery was important because I wanted something not only that was different from anybody else, but also something that was a little bit approachable, or was something that maybe a younger generation could connect with, or something in the back of my head. It was like always kind of this skate vibe, kind of Tony Hawk style. Growing up with, Bam Margera, some of that influence kind of played into it. So I was just trying to do something a little out there, a little bit more entertaining than what you might traditionally see.
If you guys got to ever redo the rap, you have to throw a heartogram in there. Now that you mentioned
Yeah,
Bam
right.
Margera, uh, I love that. I thought of it as like very like gamery style, and I
Yes,
remember
yes.
being at the Park Expose, and I wish I would have had a chance to talk to you, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you because we showed up very like close to whenever the Park Expose was going to end,
Sure.
and I'm a big fan of the I think it's called Rio Punch or whatever by Monster, and so that was on my
Oh
top to
yeah,
do
okay.
list since they were giving those out, and my son got one of the posters from your car, and I walked past, and I was like, man,
Oh nice.
that's a cool livery. And then I saw the Lost by Choice on there. I was like, I wonder if that's, because like Rallying, we're out here in the middle of nowhere and everything else like that. And so I had some questions to myself, and I was like, that rap is really cool because it's unique. It's very gamery. It definitely is very
Yes.
that Tony Hawk skater vibe.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
it's it's it is very very cool, and highly recommend people go and check it out. So I got a couple more questions for you
Of course.
before we wrap this up. So what kind of music do you listen to?
Oh man. I no lie listen to everything. I am all over the place with music. Music to me is so emotional. Uh, and I'll give my age away. I am 38. So more recently, I have been really able to hear the lyrics. And I don't know if that's something with age, but like really diving into what these artists are saying has been like profound to me for some reason. So I spread the gamut of, glitch pop, like Crystal Castles. I love NF. I was
Dude,
listening
NF is
to
awesome.
I was listening to Noah Kahan. But I am all over the place when it comes to music. It is purely driven by how I wake up and how I feel that day, what I'm gonna kind of listen to on my way to work. Um,
So it's funny that you mentioned NF because typically this like podcast covers country and metal because those are my
yep.
like two big ins. But NF, his stuff is so creative, so clever. The lyrics resonate hardcore with me. Um,
Yes.
I found him. Well, he was recommended to me about the time COVID hit,
Oh yeah.
and
Okay.
so like there was like a whole month or so where like almost all I listened to during the summer of 2020 was NF, and
Yes.
like it just fit the vibe of how that summer was. It was a little sad, not gonna lie, but
Sure.
it definitely helped emote, which like you were saying, music is very
Yes.
emotional, and um whenever I listen to music, there are or not music, well, yeah, but like whenever I'm feeling different emotions, I listen to specific music. So if I'm angry,
Exactly.
one of my top ones that I love to go to whenever I'm angry is Right Now by Korn.
Okay.
You know, whenever I'm kind of in my feels, Forgotten to Remember by Mudvayne is one of my favorites. And one of the biggest things with that one is I've been a lyrics person for quite a while, but it's
Hmm.
also because like I write poetry and whatnot, which is actually
Oh,
part of the reason
nice.
why I started podcasting anyway, was to like help promote my books. But podcasting has kind of become so much more than just trying to be a way to promote my writing. I mean, it's still a part of it, but it's only like a third or less, I would say. And the lyrics from Forget to Remember, is I feel it down on the inside, twisting and contorting. Memory has shaped me once again. Like
Okay.
that, like that hits home because like how many times has a memory shaped
Yes.
myself? Like I'm very big on self examination of like where am I at today,
Okay. Yep.
and like those past things that have happened to us, they they linger no matter who it is or whatever. There's something that lingers with you in some way, and so
Yes.
like that definitely hit home for me. And then uh I'm just all over the place with music too, and it's all about emotion and feels and everything else. Like there's certain songs, man, I'm really happy, I'm gonna put this one on because I can sing this with
Yes.
a
Yep.
smile.
Exactly. And for me, it's exactly the same. It's finding or listening to or hearing those lyrics that just connect with me. My brain is always thinking, not the best. Um, so when I'm able to connect with a lyric, a line, or a statement, it's so powerful because I get to put my thought that I might be having that time to something else, in the sense of something lyrical that kind of resonates with me and I can kind of go through the fogginess a little bit and, connect a little bit deeper with a song or a piece of music. And like you said, it's just listening is so important to what these artists are writing and saying and vocalizing. That's it's pretty amazing, you know.
it, Incredibly amazing. uh just a couple more questions, not trying to
Yeah.
move on from this subject, but I also don't want to keep you all night.
No, no
uh
worries.
Actually, so I've got three questions because one of them's kind of funny. So uh for people that don't know, Dan, do you prefer Dan or Daniel? Because I don't want to call you
Oh, it
something
doesn't
that
matter.
will
You
drive you.
know.
Okay. uh, Dan lives in on the East Coast, and he lives in Massachusetts specifically. Uh, by the way, your address is no, I'm kidding. But you living on the East Coast, we've been going back and forth through email, and you said today I finally got dug out, and I was like, "What is he talking about? Dug out? Like, is
Oh
he trying to
yeah.
use this as like a rally reference? Like his schedule is clear." And then it hit me as I got home, and my wife and I we were talking about this episode because she was like, uh, "Don't you meet Aren't you recording with him at 7?" And I said, "Well, 7 there because he lives out east." And then I was like, "Oh, they're getting that massive snowstorm." He was
Yes.
actually digging
Yes.
out.
Oh yeah. So yeah,
So
I think we got a foot yesterday here,
a
and
foot
then
in a day.
yeah, and then I work in the automotive industry, so my whole day was moving vehicles around the lot, um, plowing, and then parking all the vehicles back. So I've been at it yesterday at 5 a.m. Probably this morning I woke up at 4. Um, yeah, so I've been just kind of hammering it out.
Busy guy.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so last few questions, because and like I want to have you back already. Like before we get any
Of
further, I want to
course.
have you back for a stage two. uh, so if you could take the Mustang anyway, what not full rally? We'll get to that here in a second,
Yep.
because I've got a couple of different tiers to this same question. So what stage would you want to run with the Mustang? Anyway,
Oh, I don't. You know, I was very fortunate to run New England Forest Rally, and I would really love to go back there. That is my home event. So I would really love to rerun New England Forest Rally, any stage, Concord Pond especially. Concord Pond was so fast, so flowy. It reminded it. People will say it reminds you of Finland and all those great gravel fast stages, and it was so accurate, you know. But one that's kind of interesting to me also is doing a tarmac event, similar to what they host in Barbados, which my co-driver is very persuasive in saying, "Oh, let's just do it. Let's just ship the car to Barbados." And I was like, "I don't think we can do that." So
if you find enough sponsor money, you can do anything, right?
exactly, that's very true. That's very true.
So if
So
you have deep pockets and you love rallying, sponsor Lost by Choice so they can
yeah,
take your car down to
exactly.
Barbados and they'll give you lots and lots of plugs.
Yes, exactly. I'll give you plugs. We'll do some social content, and you can even get me in front of the camera if you like.
So I now you got another question going for me. New England
Yes,
Forest Rally. Was it
yes,
ever a national event? Because I'm fairly new, and I thought it was a national event because I've seen where Ken Block. I want to say it was the Concord Pond stage. I could be wrong, but
yes.
I know he set a new record for it a couple of years before he passed, and it's a fast stage because I want to say it's like a 10-minute stage or something like that. I can't remember what the exact amount of time was, but he flew
Exactly.
through it, and it was like a half tarmac, half stage or half gravel stage, and it looks incredible. And I just is it a rally that's still around, or because I've tried looking it up and I can't really find anything about it.
Unfortunately, it's not around anymore. It was always a national event for the longest time. That's kind of where I started spectating because it was relatively close to me. Still 4 hours away. But for rally terms, it was relatively close. So that was kind of back in the day where I would spectate. And I was very fortunate to run it once. And then unfortunately, I think just it kind of disappeared from the ARA schedule. So
It's such a bummer.
yeah.
Uh, because from what I have seen of it, man, it'd be cool. And
Oh my
on
God.
Dirt
Yeah.
Rally 2.0, there's a New England rally on there, and I think it's like some of the stages that are because a lot of the stages on there are fairly accurate because you can play Monte Carlo and it looks like you're up there on
Yes.
like all day
Yes.
terrain. And so I would imagine the New England stages would be no different. And so I'm guessing some of those stages are ones that like were ran during the New England national event. Uh, and I would love to see that come back because
Yeah.
then like New England's a beautiful area to begin with. Uh, I've been up in that region probably like Pennsylvania is the area I've probably frequented the most up there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So maybe not quite exactly New England-ish esque, but I
Mm-hmm.
like been through Philly, been up the Philadelphia or not Philadelphia Turnpike, but the Pennsylvania Turnpike,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so like the mountains up there are just amazing, and
Yes.
so I just beautiful area, and let's push for that one to come back. Anybody that's listening to
Definitely.
this, like
Definitely.
let's start a petition. But uh, if you could drive any other car aside from the Mustang, what would you drive, and what rally in general, not just one stage, but what rally in
Mm-hmm.
general would you want to run it at? Would it be New England still, or would the car change your mind?
Um. We'll start with the car. This is a tough one because for me, I can't think of an exact car other than, a Rally 2, something that's a little bit faster, all wheel drive, like a Fiesta or something along those lines. I would really like to try out the um, Peugeot that's now over here. But for me, it would be more, I would like to try another class, not just rear wheel drive, no, two wheel drive, maybe limited four wheel drive or something like that in the near future. Um, just to try it, my my quick goal with Lost by Choice Motorsports is to teach, to grow the brand, but to put other people in the driver's seat, eventually. So if I had to get somebody else behind the wheel of the Mustang, let's do it. If you're ambitious and want to learn and stuff like that, I'm all for it. But for me, I would love to do the same in another, type of vehicle just to learn, because I'm always one of those people that just wants to learn. So, and much like yourself, it sounds like if I'm sitting in something, I'll figure it out. I'll be able to drive it within, 5 minutes. So for me, it's more of trying new classes of vehicle altogether. And for any specific rally, I mean, I have to make it over to the West Coast at some point. Olympus or Ojibwe. I just got to move a little bit more west in my rally ventures because I feel like I'm missing out on a lot.
Dude, that would be so cool. Olympus, like as a fan, is on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few that are on my bucket list, and like my wife and I was talking to her. I was like, I really want to go to Finland sometime, but
Yep.
kind of the same issue of trying to get to Barbados. Plane tickets, I mean,
Exactly.
you have a car though, but plane tickets alone aren't cheap. So
No.
yeah, uh, man, I love the idea of driving a rally too. I've actually I look at the Renegades now. Stellantis, I know, doesn't need another option as far as
Oh,
a
yep,
Rally 2
yep.
goes. But like for an American manufacturer to get involved again, and Jeeps used to be involved in the WRC. It was very early on, and they got banned really quickly because of the
Sure.
whole all-wheel drive
Yep,
thing. Which
yep.
is funny because then, like 10 years later, we had Group B. But whatever. Who's counting, right? Uh,
Exactly.
but a Renegade, because it's got that street profile, but it also sits a little higher, would be
Sure.
perfect for a Rally 2 spec.
Yep,
And
yep.
so I would love to see that happen, and I would love to drive one. I would love to drive
Yeah.
any Rally 2. But dude, trying one of the Peugeots would be so cool. Just because like
Yeah.
there's not very many in America. Two, it's a great way to get introduced into driving because they're
Yes.
like with any other motorsport, everything's stair stepped. So it's a great entry point. Not as much horsepower as a Rally 2 or even a Mustang, but it would be a different feeling,
Exactly.
and uh, it would be such a cool learning experience. And the fact that we have the North American Cup
Oh, yeah. Yep,
here
yep.
to go with the Peugeot, like that's inspiring in itself. And I think I would have to take the Rally 2 option if I were to enter and win instead
Yep.
of a Rally 3 for a whole season here, which would, or is it a whole season or is it, I can't remember if it's a full season in a Rally 3 or if it's just a couple of events. But to go overseas and do a Rally 2, like that
Oh,
would,
yeah.
man, that'd be the way to
Yeah.
go, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
You got me nerding out now. But I do need to cut it off here, unfortunately, because I could talk rallying all night. I could talk
Sure.
all this stuff that we've talked about all night. But I know you've got stuff going on, and uh, 4 o'clock comes pretty quickly. So does
Oh,
3:30
yeah.
because I got to get up early for my job too. So we both should probably get to bed. Dude, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
hanging out
Thank
with
you
me
very much.
and talking, and we will definitely have you on. Uh, I I would like soft pencil it in because obviously things can come up or whatever. But I would love to have you back on in 2027, like
Of
almost a full
course.
year's time, to talk about what your plans are for 2027. So,
Definitely.
dude,
Definitely.
thank you. Check out Lost by Choice Motorsports, guys, and have a good one. We'll catch you again under this tin roof.
Thank you very much.